In 2026, Sri Lanka's NPP alliance achieved a feat rarely seen in modern democracy, a commanding two-thirds supermajority in parliament. For a population still recovering from a massive economic crisis, this election provided a clear mandate for a total break from the past. At the center of that mandate is a promise to clean house. Voters handed the new government massive legislative power, with the explicit expectation of a sweeping anti-corruption drive aimed at the former political elite. The administration moved quickly to project confidence. President Anura Kumara Dissanayake even hinted at a specific judicial outcome expected in the coming months, telling the public they would soon have reason to applaud the progress of high-profile fraud cases. This kind of aggressive posture creates a ticking clock. When a government projects total control and frames the courts as an extension of its will, the public begins to expect immediate, visible results. But there is a gap between winning an election and exercising absolute authority. That massive electoral mandate is already beginning to collide with structural boundaries that do not bend to political willpower. No matter how many seats a party holds in parliament, a domestic mandate cannot simply override constitutional checks, dictate terms to global financial markets, or ignore shifting regional priorities. This friction is becoming visible inside the government's own domestic institutions. The president's public comments on pending corruption cases created an immediate tension with the judicial process. The Sri Lankan Bar Association issued a formal warning, noting that an executive leader publicly framing upcoming verdicts risks eroding public confidence and creates the perception of direct executive interference. Treating the courts as an instrument to fulfill a popular mandate ignores their core function as an independent constitutional body. When an administration holds a supermajority, the strength of the democracy is tested by whether those in power respect the silence that judicial independence requires. Beyond the courtroom, the administration faces a boundary it cannot legislate away: the volatility of the global economy. In April 2026, Sri Lanka's tourist arrivals plunged by 22% to 135,643 visitors. This slowdown, driven by Middle East instability disrupting aviation networks, makes the $4 billion tourism target increasingly difficult to reach. That same regional instability has pushed up global fuel costs, which direct a 14.4% for heavy users, a move that directly contradicts the populist relief many voters expected. To manage the political fallout, the administration committed to a 15 billion rupee subsidy to shield 95% of consumers from the increase. It is a reminder that balancing a national budget requires hard financial trade-offs that a parliamentary majority cannot simply vote out of existence. Moving to the regional stage, the government must manage pressures that shift independently of domestic election cycles. In the 2026 state elections in India, the actor-turned-politician Vijay and his TVK party took absolute control of the Tamil Nadu assembly, ending decades of dominance by the traditional Dravidian giants. Vijay's platform is built on Tamil identity and the protection of coastal fishing communities, often putting him at direct odds as Sri Lankan maritime policy. This shift limits Colombo's ability to act unilaterally on domestic reconciliation or fishing disputes in the Palk Strait, without risking a diplomatic confrontation with a significantly larger neighbor. A mandate won at home carries little weight when it triggers retaliation from a regional power that controls critical trade and diplomatic channels. For Sri Lanka's new administration, passing laws with a two-thirds majority is the simplest part of governing. The more difficult challenge is maintaining institutional restraint when faced with structural friction from the courts, the markets, and the neighbors. If these institutional guardrails are ignored in favor of centralizing power, the administration risks repeating the same patterns of mismanagement that led to the country's previous economic collapse. There is an alternative path: modeling a new standard for a pragmatic recovery by carefully negotiating these intense, competing global and domestic pressures. A leader's success is ultimately defined by how they navigate the invisible borders of constitutional law, the volatility of global markets, and the interests of their regional neighbors.